Matt and I have been talking about it already all show here. What do you expect Jon Jones to look like? We saw what he looked like in the weigh-ins, and some people are like, doesn't look that good. Does that deter you from thinking it's still going to be vintage Jon Jones we see tonight?
Number one, I'm not royalty because I work. Throw that out there right now. I work for everything I have. Number two, Chael Sonnen, dude, I love that guy. He's awesome. He had a thing on his social media. It's like, dude, it's not a bodybuilding contest. He knows that in order to gain 40 pounds of muscle, you're going to have extra weight on there. He wasn't able to shed it because to do so would detract from his performance in the octagon. If you look, if you fight well and got a little bit of a gut, that's great. So it doesn't deter me that much. What deters me are the numbers. 3 years off, 2 title performances last time out, Thiago Santos, and then, of course, Dominic Reyes, where he looked lackluster through the worst title performances of his career. Those are the things that concern me a little bit more. And then, Anthony Smith, the guy I work with at SiriusXM, he was on air saying, look, 3 years off, idle hands in the devil's workshop. And we know that about Jon Jones. So, you got to wonder how much dedication is there after all this time. But, I talked to Jon a couple weeks ago, and he said, this is a rejuvenation of my career. I wasn't as motivated at light heavyweight to wipe out my 4th generation of contenders as I am to move up to heavyweight and start something new. So the numbers are more disconcerting than anything I saw on the scale.
So, Jimmy, we look at this. He's up 44 pounds from the last time that we saw him in the octagon. And I think that we could look at this kind of twofold. One, we've seen guys move up and or down in weight and really struggle with the new weight class. But again, this is a guy that hasn't fought in 3 years. So this was a gradual process. And honestly, this was always the goal, was to end up at heavyweight as it was anyway, right? I mean, his frame, it can carry the weight well. He was almost too big for light heavy as it was anyway. So I guess the real question here is what is the cardio going to look like holding this new weight? I think the fighting style probably will be relatively close to the same with him, maybe a little less explosive with the 44 extra pounds on the frame. But, the cardio is a big question because, listen, the one thing about Jon, I mean, you can look back at these fights from 3 and 4 years ago. He's going out and looking pretty spent by the time the fight's over with, right? I mean, he leaves it all in the cage every single time, and now we got 44 more pounds to deal with.
Yeah, and he's a volume guy. DC said, he really didn't hit that hard. He placed a perfect kick to knock out DC in their second fight. But he goes, I was kind of surprised that he didn't have more pop to his punches. The people who don't change weight classes well going up tend to be power punchers. Best example is Robbie Lawler at Strikeforce at 185. He'll knock you out at 170. He hits you at 185 and you're still standing there. And you go, oh, great. I was a power puncher there. I'm not a power puncher here. Conor McGregor, I think moving up to 155, he laid guys out at 45. Nate Diaz ate his best punch and was like, oh, crap. This isn't what I'm used to. The good thing is Jon was never a power guy. He never relied on his ability to knock somebody out with one shot. He's not going to do that at heavyweight, and he didn't do that at 205. So that's where I get concerned, is when you don't realize the gifts you're going to lose changing weight classes. The same thing going down. A lot of guys, I'm a fast 170. Dude, you ain't a fast 155. Those guys are quick. And so same deal. You generally lose the power punching when you move up in weight class. Jon was never a power puncher. So that's kind of the good news. To your point, the cardio, we're going to know, I think, midway through round 1, we'll know if Jon still has the smoothness, right? The explosiveness, the movement that he had at 205. We'll know halfway through round 1 if he has that at heavyweight. If he does, that's a great sign. The second gut check is round 4. I talked to Eve Edwards, good friend of mine, great fighter back in the day. He fought at 170 and 155. And I go, well, what's the difference? He goes, Jimmy, at 170, all that blood pumping through your muscles, you feel the gas tank going down when you're carrying that extra weight. We're going to feel that maybe round 3, round 4, round 5, where normally Jon would pull away from guys, right? So like Dominic Reyes, I thought Dominic Reyes won the first 3 rounds. Well, rounds 4 and 5, that's when Jon pulled away from him and is able to use his veteran savvy. If you're out of gas, you can't do that. So that's really going to be a big tell. I would say round 3, 4, and 5, where the cardio is.
Yeah, right now 4.5. It is juiced to the over 4.5 right now. If we think this card, this main event here might hit the judges' scorecards. Let's talk about the other guy that we're not talking about. At least the media feels like they really have, and that's Ciryl Gane here. And right now, I wonder if he beats Francis Ngannou. Right, exactly.
That guy, who? Yeah. Stop fighting somebody?
I mean, it's there is another guy in there, right? And if he beats Ngannou, he's probably a decided favorite against Jon if this matchup were still to manifest itself that way. And now all the money's been coming in on Jones. He's minus $1.75 here. What about Ciryl? Does he have a little bit of a chip on his shoulder, thinking, okay, I'm the disrespected one here?
He should. He should. I said over and over, like on the lead up to this and, all the shows I've been doing, I'm like, it's the Jon Jones show. This is the Jon Jones show. How is Jon Jones going to look? Oh, my God, can Jones solidify his legacy? Jon Jones, the greatest of all time with a win. And he's fighting somebody. He's fighting Ciryl Gane. The reason Gane is being so overlooked is a guy who would get tech-falled on a wrestling mat in about 2 minutes named Francis Ngannou took Ciryl Gane down with ease. This wasn't Stipe Miocic, who was a D1 wrestler at Cleveland State. This was not Curtis Blades, who has an excellent wrestling background. This was a guy we didn't know could wrestle at all. And he took down Ciryl Gane pretty much at will for 5 rounds. And that led to the one-sidedness. Well, people are just kind of doing the MMA math and going, well, Jon Jones out-wrestled DC, who made the Olympics twice. So the idea that Jon Jones doesn't take him down at will, that's where all the betting money is going. But one of the things we talked to Ciryl Gane, you talk to his coaching staff, they admit it. They go, we just didn't expect Ngannou to do that. We thought it'd be a kickboxing match. We're not aware of it. If his coaches don't have him ready for a wrestling match against Jon Jones, I'll say it right now, he has incompetent coaches. You know what Jon Jones is going to do, but that's the reason for the disparity in betting. Not because of the stand-up, not because of the size or anything he can do. It's they don't think he can out-wrestle or stop the takedown of Jon Jones. And Ciryl Gane has a right to feel disrespected. If this is a stand-up battle, this is a kickboxing match for 5 rounds, Ciryl Gane wins. The bettors and the public just don't think that's going to happen.
Jimmy, that's you kind of gave the game script there for Gane. If if this is a kickboxing match, then you're going to lean him. Then what's the game script for Jon Jones here? Because I do hear multiple different ways of people say, okay, he's going to go down, he's going to go out, he's going to take him down, it's going to be boring, he's going to lay on top of him, he's going to grind it out, he needs the win, he wants to get the win, et cetera, et cetera. There's also the ground and pound angle, and then Jon's kind of sneaky good with submissions as well. Or do you think he can stay on the feet and win a decision against Ciryl Gane? Is that out of the question here for Jon Jones?
It's not out of the question, but the problem is it's volume and accuracy, right? He's not a power puncher. He's probably not going to hurt Ciryl Gane with any shots. It's one of those pick him apart. Think if you're an old school boxing fan, Roy Jones Jr., John Ruiz, where, he couldn't trade punches with John Ruiz, but he just outmoved him and outvolumed him and outlanded him for, 12 rounds. It's a similar thing here. He's got to just be incredibly accurate for 5 rounds and keep the volume up. That's where all these cardio questions come in, right? He can't go punch for punch with Ciryl Gane. He's got to go 2-1, 3-1. That burns a lot of gas, but that's his strategy. And also, another reason why I think the odds right now against for Jon Jones are pretty absurd is he's used to big brothering guys, right? He's used to that front hand and able to keep guys at a distance. Did it with Rashad Evans, did it with Rampage Jackson, and he has to be the bigger guy to do that. Against Dominic Reyes, Alexander Gustafsson, the bigger opponents he's faced, that strategy didn't work, and those were his closest fights. Now, obviously, the second one against Gustafsson was a knockout, but the first one, he had a lot of trouble with a guy that he couldn't big brother. And that's going to be a big thing, too. Can he win without controlling the range with his height? Because he's not going to be the bigger guy.
Visit VSiN.com to get current odds, listen for free, find showtimes, and download VSiN sports betting podcasts.